lot of celebrities, this man blamed all of his problems on women, while also causing women enormous harm. And he gets to rebrand. This is part 2 of how Uncle Jesse is now a family man, despite openly admitting a grape and a bunch of other stuff. Now, this is nothing new. Celebrities like Red Hot Chili Peppers dude get to openly talk about graping women, and they're still touring and everything's fine. Like a lot of addicts in Hollywood, these men can go decades harming so many women and then going to like AA or some 12-step program that they're not actually working and get to completely rebrand or, become a conspiracy theorist, like left-wing person who's actually a predator. Blah! Or they can just keep knocking up women and giving them child after child after child after child. And he continued to coerce her to have more, blah, blah, blah. Allegations against men in Hollywood don't ever ruin their careers. I mean, this dude, Michael Fassbender, he's got a new movie coming out like soon. Nothing ever happens to these dudes. I mean, even when they're convicted of unaliving people, like, Oscar, they get out. If they ever go to jail, they get out. It's okay. He's going to go live his best life now. And it's thanks to their friends who make movies about other women's trauma, lie about it, make up a whole story based on the predator and what a victim they are, and then make it with your best friend who is a predator. And only when other stars who have to work with y'all call it out do you ever like, oh, never mind, I'm not friends with them. Anyway, so many sociopaths are just like living their best life, climbing the Empire State's Building or whatever it is he's doing. Making movies about being complete sociopaths who will not deal with your trauma. And yet they always end up writing a memoir, coming back. If they get to write memoirs and rebrand, even get the New York Times to do pieces about them. And then also get to promote your stupid memoir. You talk crap about your ex and other women, literally lie about it. See part 1 for all that stuff, y'all. And somehow always paint yourself a victim. So back to him in Full House, this awful show that he was on that I watched as a kid, but I also hated it even then. He was so bitter that he got famous from Full House. 8 years having, I'm not Uncle Jesse, I'm not. I don't want to be a mullet-headed ding-dong. And who actually thinks that, had he not been drinking that whole time and not actually caring about his career because he's too busy getting wasted and hitting on teenagers, he thinks he would have been the next Clooney. You are not this man. Why did he hate his beautiful wife so much? Well, she emasculated him. For doing what? For being successful. I talk about this a lot on here about do not date insecure men. Do not date men who compete with you. And definitely don't date men who are jealous of you. Because they literally will be out to ruin your life and knock you down because they can't be as great as you. And they're so pissed that you're thriving because they feel so entitled to all of the fruits of your labor without having to do anything for them. And they're taught under patriarchy that they're better than women. So it doesn't make sense and it's not fair. So he felt emasculated. And, basically, he says he took a backseat to her career, but that's because he wasn't doing anything. She was talented. I loved her. I was happy to take the backseat. But he admits later on that it's because he forgot about his own stuff. He wasn't paying attention to his own. And I'm guessing it's not because he was such a supportive husband, but he was just jealous. So he really wasn't happy to do that because he hated her. Even when he was lazy and not even working and she was starting to thrive, he's like, I was being a bit lazy. I was only putting in like 50 to 60%. Right here, this is the nice guy quote right here. These nice guys, they think they're so amazing compared to monsters. Well, my 50% is better than, 99% of the people. Like, just the way he's just like, I didn't have to get, like, I promise you, your 50% is not better than 99% of people's 50%. There are few men more unbearable than unemployed men, but especially insecure, unemployed men who are jealous of their wives but also don't want to do anything. Nightmare. Hobosexual energy, y'all. Even rich men can be hobosexual. It's the mentality. The dude even admits, I didn't really work on anything. I didn't work as hard as I should at anything. My career would have been a lot better if it hadn't just been on cruise control. And if he wasn't, pissed that he had to be Uncle Jesse, which literally is what launched his career. Nobody knew that dude before then. Other than like Beach Boys crap. General Hospital, I don't know. But this is what is so telling. This is how men think, y'all. It's just most men don't say this out loud. They're not like, I felt emasculated her because really I was jealous of her. I wasn't doing anything, but I hated her. I couldn't believe how much I hated her. And it ruined my life. In my mind back then, she was the devil. And I hated her. And then later on, he's like, okay, well, maybe she wasn't the devil. He even admits that she was the one working really hard to make this marriage work, and he wasn't, because she actually cared. But what he hated was that everyone thought she dumped him because her career was taking off. She was working with big directors like all these people. His 8 seasons at a TV show with a literal child that he was jealous of and babies that he thought were unattractive. He's just like, good. The only reason why he stopped hating her is because allegedly his sponsor, which again, this man doesn't sound like he's actually working the program that is all about self-reflection and taking accountability. He's like, well, he's the devil. Maybe she wasn't the devil. Maybe I did something. Maybe I had some teeny tiny part in all of it. Yeah, bro, you're just an insecure, jealous man who can't admit that you hate women because you can't be one. You want what women have. Hate yourself. Won't deal with your trauma. Oh, speaking of which, this is one of the reasons why we're supposed to excuse all of his behavior. Now, I have so much compassion for any survivor of childhood SA or any survivor, okay? And I know that men are in deep denial about just how often this happens. And y'all like tell each other you're lucky and all this stuff. Whereas, feminism thinks this is a big deal. And, I want you to understand this is great. And he's finally understanding that. That doesn't excuse everything he did. And his refusal to look at this, instead hide in being a celebrity and all the adrenaline for that and addiction, chasing after women and teenage girls. Maybe if you had just figured this out earlier, we would all be better, dude. Because he never saw any jail time for the grape that I'm going to get into in a second. But he did make sure that 2 people went to prison for trying to, steal money from him with a ransom. If you look into this story, it's interesting. Because the woman that was trying to extort him for money had his email address. Because they met when she was a teenager. Now, he claims that she said she was in college. And that all they did was just hang out and socialize in his hotel room with other teenage girls. And because the judge ruled that any testimony about whether they had an intimate relationship was not allowed, then, of course, it looks like this woman is just like doing a money grab. And he was saying, I was heartbroken from the divorce, So I went on to go party in Florida until one time talked to teenage girls and brought them back to my hotel. Nothing happened. By the way, he was 46 at the time, and this woman was 17. Then apparently he allegedly brought some strippers over and had a bag of and whatever. This allegedly happened, including getting undressed in a hot tub, whatever. I don't know if this happened. This is all allegedly. But all I know is that this woman and her older boyfriend eventually tried to get this money from him after having, a long flirty relationship by email. My guess is that this dude was like, oh, John Stamos did that to you in your teen? Let's, blackmail her. Talk to this girl into doing it. It's just a guess. She goes along with it, and now then they both went to jail. I'm sorry, but any man in his late 40s hanging out in a hotel room, drunk and doing drugs with teenagers, I don't believe you. Not only because he's a big fan of Elvis Presley, who's also because he admitted out loud and proud one of the worst time he screwed someone over was when he was in Finland playing in a band. There was a girl hanging around that was really, really drunk and interested in him. I wasn't into her, but my friend was. So the girl came back to my hotel and I turned the lights down and we started making out. And I said, hold on a second, I gotta brush my teeth. It was dark, I left the room, I sent my friend in, looked like me. She thought she was having schmegs with me. Jokes on you. Really, she was having schmegs with my friend. This is what he said. I'm sorry, I have a hard time believing any man who is famous, has a ton of money, admits to being a part of graping someone, doesn't see anything wrong with that, hates his wife because she's successful, blames her for it, lies about other women, blah, 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 so much. Everything I said in that last video, nightmare to live with. I don't have much sympathy. I have an enormous amount of sympathy for addicts, but as I say in here all the time, do not date one. You will get pulled into their trauma that they're not dealing with, their chaos. You will lose yourself and maybe even die. Like Denise Richards, who said never have dated him if she'd known he was deep in that addiction. Sarah Jessica Parker her life was almost ruined by Robert Downey Jr. He was what taught her how to be a parent. But like Matthew Perry's ex, he caused pain like she'd never known. Then the men get to rebrand.